Hey, welcome back to The Dive. Canada raising rates, a $3.8 billion budget on minerals, the Russia-Ukraine crisis and its impact on mining, gold's price action, as well as the company's recent updates and drill programs are the topics that our guest will deep dive into today. He is the president and CEO of Aztec Minerals Corp. Simon Dyakowski is joining us today. But before we bring you Simon's interview, you know the drill. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button, please. Hey, Simon, welcome back to The Dive.
Hey, Cassandra, thanks a lot for having me back on again.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. Okay, so let's start off with interest rates. The Bank of Canada raised its benchmark interest rate to 1%, the biggest hike in 22 years. Canada's central bank also said it will be halting government bond purchases to reduce its balance sheet in the fight against inflation. How do you think this is going to affect the precious metals market?
Well, I think that we're clearly in an inflationary environment, and the central banks, including the Bank of Canada, seem to be behind the curve. If you look at the stated interest rate less the bond yields, we're still in a very deep negative real rate territory. So despite the 50 basis point hikes, despite how many they may do, it doesn't look like the real interest rates will go positive anytime soon. And that's a very constructive environment for precious metals. And a good historical analog would be the 1970s, when gold was a very strong performer through that entire decade. And that was also during an era of high inflation and rising interest rates. So I don't think that the hiking is going to necessarily stop the inflation as soon as they had hoped.
Now, in the latest federal budget, Justin Trudeau's Liberals committed to providing up to $3.8 billion to create Canada's first critical minerals strategy. What impact do you see this having on the Canadian mining industry?
Well, it certainly could help. The tax credits are, particularly in Canada for mineral exploration, make it much easier for speculative and junior stage companies to raise capital. So we'll see the details when they shake out, but it should certainly help with the funding for exploration for commodities like copper in particular. So, optimistic to see what that will bring.
So shifting gears a bit here, Vladimir Putin said that peace talks with Ukraine were at a dead end. So we have to ask, what's your opinion on what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, and what impact do you see this having on commodity markets?
Good question. Obviously very sad what's going on there, and it's a couple of months into the conflict now, so it doesn't seem like there's an imminent resolution to the fighting, and probably increasing the case to encourage countries to develop their own energy and resource supplies. So, from that perspective, it should hasten that effort for the the Western countries to regain some independence in those critical supply chains.
Okay, so let's talk about gold. We reached a critical level of around $2,000. What are you seeing in the price action of gold?
Well, we're seeing gold consolidating around a new level here above 1900. We were just talking about the geopolitical conflicts. I think it's always better for gold and precious metals investors if gold moves up in a more orderly manner, and that the price moves aren't driven strictly on news headlines. So, I think every day that we trade above 1900, and even today when we're speaking, we're about 1945 is positive. The chart, if you stretch it out to 5 or 10 years, looks extremely bullish. There's a big cup and handle developing, and we're patiently waiting for that breakout above 2000 and then 2100, and I think by all accounts, that will be very, very positive for sentiment towards exploration and precious metals companies.
Okay, now let's talk about Aztec. Last month, you announced DTC eligibility for Aztec's common shares on the OTCQB. This is a common progression in junior mining. How much liquidity do you think there is in the OTC markets for resource companies at this point?
Well, in the case of Aztec, we're very keen to make it as easy as possible for U.S. investors to trade our shares, and the reason for that is twofold. One, it's a huge pool of capital, and when American retail and institutional investors, catch an interest in precious metals, they can be a huge force in capital coming in. But also, one of our two main projects, one of our only two projects, is in the U.S. and it's in Tombstone, Arizona, which is an area that's very familiar with most Americans. It's a popular place to travel. It's a tourist historic Western town, and obviously was the site of the shootout at the OK Corral, and there's a Hollywood movie made about that. So we want to make sure that everybody in the U.S. has as good of an opportunity to trade our shares as possible, and the DTC eligibility helps facilitate that.
So you also announced continued gold mineralization from your drill program in Sonora, Mexico. Results returned 152.4 meters, grading 0.87 grams per ton gold. Can you walk us through the results?
Yeah, so we've now announced holes 11 through 14 at Cervantes, and the result you're referencing there is a step out to the north of our initial discovery holes that we announced earlier this year, and it shows a very strong continuity and expansion of the main mineralized California zone. So that step out was 50 meters north of the pattern that we had drilled previously, and expands that zone to over 200 meters in width now. So all of the holes that we've drilled to date have shown extensive widths of oxide gold, from plus 50 meters widths of over a half gram in most of the holes, which is exactly what we're hoping to see in building out a significant oxide gold potential open pit heap leachable resource. So we continue to move along and expand the project.
Okay, so lastly, before we let you go here, what should investors be watching out for with Aztec short term?
Well, we still have a number of drill holes yet to report from that drill program, another 8 holes to go. And we also have the final results from the initial drill holes that we've reported. So we've only reported gold numbers to date, but we still have multi-elements, so samples that will include copper and silver, for example. So those will come out over the coming weeks. And then we'll be ramping into a follow-up drill program and announcing our plans for that, which we expect to commence in the second quarter of this year. So, a lot coming up over the next 6 to 8 weeks for us at Aztec.
Definitely very exciting. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on today, Simon, and giving us the update.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's great to chat with you once again.
Thanks so much for watching today. We'll be back again tomorrow with the latest news and updates, so be sure to stay tuned by hitting that notification bell before you leave.